All right. Welcome to driver education class today. This will be lesson 1.1.5. And can't remember if I explained this to you remote learners or not, but I think I did. The numbering system, the first number is the 9 week, second number is which school week that is, so which set of 5 days, and then the third number is the day within. So this is the last day of the first 5 days of the school year. Okay, uh, that doesn't matter as much as the actual topic that we are covering. So what we're covering today is chapter 2 of the rules of the road book. So in chapter 1, we talked about the driver's license itself and what the classifications are and what the requirements are to obtain a driver's license. And in chapter 2, we are going to be talking about the exams themselves, the driver's license exams. That's what we're going to be talking. So let's go ahead and talk about the various exams that we have that we will be taking. You're going to be taking those exams in this class. And what are the three exams? So there are three exams. We talked about this a little bit on day one of driver education whenever we talked about going over the informational handout. Well, to get your exam or to get your driver's license, the three exams that you have to pass are the written exam. And remember, you'll take that on the computer on your Chromebook. Two, the vision exam. A lot of you have already taken that. Some of you will be taking that later this week or maybe even a little farther down the road. And then the third is the driving exam. That's the exam where you'll actually sit in the car and you'll drive. And we'll talk about each of these exams in greater detail during this lecture today. With each of those three exams, you have three chances to pass them, and that's within a calendar year. And from the Secretary of State's standpoint, those three chances that year begins with your date of application. That doesn't work quite perfectly in driver education because you'll actually do two of those exams before the official date of your application. And those two exams are the written exam and the vision exam. So a lot of you have already taken the vision exam and you haven't actually filled out your application yet. The written exam you will take on the day you fill out your application, but you don't actually submit that application on that day. So anyway, those are technical details that you don't really need to worry about. But just know that you have three chances to pass each of those three exams. Okay, three chances to pass each of those three exams. Slide to advance here. Here we go. Let's see. Move myself up in the corner. Okay, so this is something that we really shouldn't have to worry about, but it's something that you need to be aware of. And if this thought ever crosses your mind, you need to push it out of your mind instantly. Okay, cheating and bribery. You are you know it's tempting sometimes in life to try to take the easy way out and try to cheat on a test or a homework assignment or something like that, and there are consequences for that if you do it. Well, the consequences for cheating or bribery, which we'll talk about in a second, the consequences for cheating on any part of the driver's license exam, those consequences are pretty steep. So let's start with the written exam. Let's say that you're taking the written exam and I discover that you are cheating. Well, you automatically fail that exam. And remember, you only get three chances at it. You automatically fail that exam and you're not allowed to retake it for 30 days. Now, this is whether you're taking it with me at school, whether you're taking it remotely, or whether you are taking it at the driver services facility. This holds true. So if you are found to be cheating, then you will not be allowed to retake that exam for 30 days. Uh, if you take an exam or have someone take a driver's license exam for you, that's a criminal offense. and that is punishable by a fine and a mandatory minimum 7 days in jail. So if someone is taking an exam for someone else, that is a criminal offense. That's even more serious than you're looking up an answer on your cell phone or something and you get caught. Okay, this is even more serious. If you have someone else take the exam for you, it's criminal, and spend a mandatory minimum 7 days in jail for that. Okay, what about bribery? What does that even mean? Well, that means you try to pay someone to help you out in some way, to make this task easier. So, you try to pay somebody to get you out of doing something like, hey, if I just give you $20, can I not take the test? And we say that I did. Yeah, that's illegal. Okay, you can't do that. So, Secretary of State's office, remember that's just a division of the state government that's in charge of all things driver's license related. They can deny you a driver's license or permit. So just flat out say, sorry, you're not getting a driver's license or permit. And they can put whatever time period on that they want. Okay, so bribery is not permitted. Kind of weird, too. I don't think that's something that we'll have to deal with. I've been doing this for 20 years now, and it's not something I've ever had to deal with. Okay, so we've got the written exam that you have to take. There's also the vision screening or the vision exam. It's not really an exam, it's a screening. There's no way to study for it. But the vision screening, which most of you have already passed. But let's talk a little bit about what you had to do to pass it. So all driver's license applicants must have a vision screening. And even when you go to get your driver's license down the road, they're probably going to screen you again. They're going to have you put your head up to the machine and have you read out some letters again and look for the little flashing lights. And every time you go to renew your license throughout your life, you're going to have to do this. Okay, this one you have to do every single time. The good news is it's quick. It's not something that takes 10, 15 minutes. It's something that takes less than a minute. So there is an alternative to this. You can also submit a vision specialist report. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, to be honest, as some of you discovered, these vision machines that they use for these quick vision screenings, they're not perfect and they're a little difficult to see some of the letters sometimes. And so some people struggle with them just because of that. And they're kind of a one size fits all type machine. And there's physical differences between all of us, like how closely set or widely set our eyes are can actually affect how easy it is for you to see the letters on these vision machines. And so, two people that have the exact same quality of vision one person may have a harder time with the vision test than someone else because maybe the shape of their face and the distance between their eyes just doesn't fit the machine as well as it does for someone else. So sometimes it's better to do a vision specialist report, especially if you struggle with the vision machines that they have at the driver services facility. So a vision specialist report, you just go to your eye doctor and you have them fill it out. Okay. They have to use a special form, and I can either print that form out for you, or if you just go on to cyberdriveillinois.com, you can find the form there and print it out. And your eye doctor may already have the forms printed out and have them on hand at the eye doctor's office, but it's got to be put on this special vision specialist report form. You can't just take a regular eye doctor prescription, and you have to actually have this form filled out. And that form has to be dated within 6 months of when you are applying for your license. All right, so the vision test, a lot of you guys already took it. Well, what was I looking for? Well, I was looking to check to make sure that you have a minimum acuity of 20/40. What the heck does that mean, right? I mean, what does that word acuity mean? And what do the numbers 20/40 mean? Well, acuity you can think of just as accuracy. how accurate is your vision? What you are seeing, is it really what's there? Are you able to read the letters? The letters that you're seeing, is that what's actually there? How accurate is your vision? So that's what acuity means. And then the 20/40. So 20 is how far away you would be able to see something, and 40 is how far away somebody with really good vision or quote unquote perfect vision, 20/20, would be able to see it. So to get your driver's license, you don't have to have 20/20 vision. You have to have 20/40 vision. So your vision doesn't have to be perfect for you to get a driver's license. So what this means is that you could read something from 20 feet away, and someone that has 20/20 vision could read that same thing from 40 feet away. So that's what 20/40 means. So if you meet that standard, then you have no restriction on your license. If you have to wear glasses or contacts to meet that standard, then you'll have what's known as a B restriction on your license. And that just means that you have to wear glasses or contacts when you drive. It's not a big deal. I've had that restriction on my license since the day I got my permit and license. I've worn contacts and glasses since second grade. Take that back, third grade. Robbie Hanauer got glasses in second grade. He was the first one in my class to get glasses. I was the second, third grade. Peripheral vision. Peripheral vision means how well can you see off to the side? So when you're looking straight ahead, can you see things moving off to the side? That's what peripheral vision is. You have to have 140 degrees of peripheral vision. So when you're looking ahead, can you see at least 70 degrees over this direction? And can you see at least 70 degrees over this direction? If you meet that, then then you pass that portion of the vision test. Well, what if you have 70 degrees over this way, but you've had an injury or your other eye just doesn't work as good, and you can't see that far over here. You can't see 70 degrees. You can only see 30 degrees over. No problem. All right, that doesn't keep you from getting a license or a permit. You have a different restriction. I don't remember the letter off the top of my head, but all it is a mirrors restriction, and it just says that you have to have mirrors on both sides of the car in addition to the rear view mirror. Okay, and we'll talk about this later, but some of those mirrors are mandatory for everybody. But if you don't have 140 degrees peripheral vision, you have to always have mirrors on both sides of the outside of the car, not just one side. Okay, so that's a really easy restriction to abide by, because guess what? Unless you're driving some really old antique car, or unless you did a bad job of backing out of the garage and you knocked the mirror off, you're going to have mirrors on both sides of the car anyway. So that's a really easy restriction to live. Okay, and then there's the written exam. Every driver has to take a written exam every 8 years. So every 8 years, every driver has to take a written exam, except a driver having no traffic convictions. And I don't want to jinx myself, but I can't remember the last time I took a written exam. Okay. I did have one ticket whenever I was, let's see, it would have been 97. So I guess I would have been 21 years old whenever that happened. No, it couldn't have been 97. Anyway, I think it was 1995 actually. Now that I think about it, when I got that ticket. But yeah, so you don't have to do this written exam if your driving record is clean during the time period that you had your license. And so your license comes up for renewal, and you go to renew your license. And if you haven't had any traffic convictions during that time, you don't have to take the written exam. Okay. For you guys, you're all going to have to take the written exam because you are a new driver. And so every new driver has to take a written exam. What do you have to do on the written exam? Well, you have to identify traffic signs. So literally, they'll show you a picture of a stop sign. It won't have the word stop on it, but they'll show you a picture of the stop sign, and you've got to say, hey, that's a stop sign. That's the easy one, right? But there are other signs that are more difficult than that, and we're going to go through them all and make sure that you're really comfortable. But you got to know your signs, because when you're driving around on a daily basis and you see these signs on the road, you have to know what that sign means. You have to identify signals, like literally traffic signals. You know, what's a red light mean? What's a green light mean? What's a yellow light mean? You have to know what pavement markings mean. What does it mean if the curb is painted white? What does it mean if the curb is painted red? What does it mean if there's a yellow line in the middle of the road? What's it mean if there's a white line in the middle of the road? You know, you have to know these. Answer multiple choice and true false questions about traffic laws, safety rules, crash prevention, and vehicle equipment. And we're going to cover all of this information. When you go into that written test, you're going to be very prepared, and you're all going to do great. I know it. And then there's the driving exam. So we've had a vision screening, we've had a written exam, and now we've got the driving exam. So you guys are new drivers. All new drivers have to take a driving exam. And drivers age 75 and older have to take a driving exam. You guys don't have to worry about that for a long time, but your grandparents, if they fall into that age category, every time they go to renew their license, they have to pass the driving test. And the reason for that is oftentimes when people get to that age, their abilities can diminish pretty quickly. Doesn't mean it'll start happening at 75. It just means that they're at an age where they just need to demonstrate that they're still capable of driving, and that's all there is to it. Drivers, hey, this is really important. So drivers must provide their own vehicle for the exam. The exception to that is when you take your driving exam with me at the school. We're not getting in your car to do that. We're going to use the driver's ed card. And that's what every school does. That's not us like breaking the rule or whatever. That's what every school does. Okay. So it's totally fine for you to use the driver's ed card. And it's actually, that's what we have to do. Have to use the driver's ed card because that's what we're insured for, and that's what the state wants us to do. But when you go to the driver services facility to get your license, even if you did the driving test with me at the school, you still need to provide a vehicle, because if you get there on a spot check day, which is a day where even if you have the paper from me that says you already passed your exam, they'll still make you drive. So if you get there on a spot check day, or if you don't qualify to take the test with me, you're going to have to do the driving test at the driver services facility. And they require that you provide your own vehicle. There's no vehicle there at the driver services facility that they use for tests. You provide the vehicle. The vehicle that you provide has to meet safety requirements. There are 14 or 15 pieces of required safety equipment. Those are on page 91. We'll talk about those later, but they're really basic things like a seat belt, and the horn has to work, and you've got to have brakes that work, and all of your lights, turn signals, stuff like that have to work. And there's more, and we'll talk about those later. But your car has to be in good functioning condition. Okay. Let's see. Let's move on to the next one because there's more information here. The vehicle has to be the same weight class as the license sought. So what does that mean? Well, if you're applying for a Class D license, which is what you're all going to be applying for, you can't show up in the grain truck from your farm. Okay, most people wouldn't do that, but just so you know, you can't do that. If you're applying for a Class D license, you can't show up with a motorcycle. Just like if you're applying for a motorcycle license, you can't show up in your car. You have to show up on your motorcycle. That car has to be properly insured, and you have to have proof of that insurance on hand. So whether it's the little card that prints out, or whether it's the app on your phone that shows it, you have to have that. Let me go back to the vehicle for just a second. We talked about this on day one, but I just want to make sure that you know. So what vehicles would qualify as a Class D vehicle? It's any regular car, van, pickup truck, okay, any normal SUV, crossover, any normal vehicle that your family drives. So whatever your mom or dad drives, I'm sure it's fine. If you have any questions, let me know. But even if it's so if it's a truck, if it's an F-150, 250, 350, you can drive those with a regular license. It's not until you get to bigger vehicles than that you have to have a special license. So any of those kinds of vehicles are totally fine. All right. You also have to display valid license plates. You have to have the front plate and the rear plate on the car. And that rear plate has to have the registration sticker. If that sticker is outdated, they will turn you away and you are not allowed to take your test that day. And they're probably going to write you a ticket as well because you had an expired sticker. So make sure that all of that stuff is taken care of before you go to get your driver's license. And I would also say when you go to get your driver's license, take whatever vehicle you are the most comfortable driving with, whether that's your mom's vehicle or your dad's vehicle. Take whatever vehicle you are most comfortable driving because if you have to do the test, you want to be comfortable. Okay, so some of this is driver services facility true and driver's ed not true. When you go to the driver services facility, if you have to take the test, it will just be you and the examiner, the driver's services facility employee. Those will be the only two people in the vehicle. You'll be driving, they'll be sitting shotgun. Okay, that's it. Mom or dad, brother, sister, your pet dog, Gus, none of those can go in the vehicle with you. Okay, just you and the examiner. When you take it with me in the driver's ed car, it'll be you driving, me riding shotgun with my safety brake, and then there'll be one more student in the back seat because that's the way it always is in the driver's ed car here. Okay, so just wanted to let you know that. Applicants will automatically fail if you commit any dangerous actions or traffic violations during the exam. So if you do anything dangerous, like I don't, I mean, let's say that you're driving and you see your friend is coming towards you. You're like, hey, I recognize that. That's Billy coming towards me in the other lane. And you like give him one of those little, like swerve checks, like, haha, I got you. Well, that's considered dangerous action. That's reckless driving. You automatically fail. Okay. That's not the time to be goofing around with your buddy. No time in a vehicle is the time to be goofing around in your buddy with your or traffic violations. Even if you don't mean to commit a traffic violation, if you commit a traffic violation, you automatically fail the exam. So let's say that you're driving along and you just flat out didn't see a stop sign. Okay. You just spaced out and you didn't even notice that there's a stop sign over on the side of the road, and you drive right through the intersection because you thought it was unmarked. Um, you fail the exam. That's immediate failure. Okay. Now you can retake it, but because remember, you get three chances within a 1 year, one calendar year, but you're not retaking it right then. They usually make you go home and come back the next day. But yeah, that's immediate failure. Otherwise, they're testing you for all sorts of different things, and there's a point system, and as long as you stay under a certain number of points, you're you'll also be graded on your ability to perform several tasks. Those tasks include making adjustments to all the vehicle controls prior, that means before putting the vehicle in motion. Now, you should probably do this, before you ever get the driver services person out there. But what they're looking for is when you sit down and start to drive, assuming this is your mom's car or something like that, if you start driving and you're going down the road and you're like, oh, wait, I forgot to adjust my mirror, and you're taking your eyes off the road so that you can adjust the mirror while you're driving, that's a big no no. That stuff should be done before you start driving. Same thing with like putting your seatbelt on. That's supposed to be done before you start driving. So making those adjustments before you start driving, backing the vehicle up at a slow speed for approximately 50 feet. That's about 3 car lengths or so. Performing a left side alley turnabout. You might not know what that is. We'll go over it in great detail later on. Parking when you're going uphill, parking when you're going downhill. So, you're pulling over to the side of the road, parking on the side of the road, either in an uphill or a downhill position. And we'll talk about what the requirements for in those scenarios. We'll talk about that later. And then just general controlling the vehicle. How smooth are your turns? Are you making good complete stops? Are you taking the proper turns at a four-way stop? All of that kind of stuff. And assuming that you do all of that well, you pass. Okay. And then finally, there are some special services that are available. Okay, so the Secretary of State's office provides the following services to senior citizens and persons with disabilities and to veterans. And those services are free rules of the road review courses, interpreter service for deaf or hard of hearing. And if that's something that you need, you have to schedule that ahead of time. You can't just walk in and say that I need an interpreter. They don't keep interpreters on hand all the time. So that has to be scheduled ahead of time. It's not a big deal. They'll take care of it for you. You just have to call them and get that scheduled, or go in and visit and get that scheduled. And then also oral examinations. And that just means that they will read the test to you. And that's for applicants that have a language barrier, like maybe they speak English, but they don't read English very well. Or, maybe they don't speak English or read English, and they need that test done in a different language. That's available as well. Or if you have a reading or learning disability. And so, it's not a requirement to get your license that you can read. And actually, that was pretty common, many decades ago. It was pretty common that people that didn't know how to read would still get driver's license. And it still happens today, and that's okay. But you do have to be able to prove that you know the information, okay? And so that's what the oral examinations are for. And someone will read the questions to you, and you still have to be able to answer those questions. All right? So, hey, that concludes chapter 2 of our Rules of the Road book. So covered lots of information there, especially information about what specifically is on those tests, the vision test, the written test, and the driving test. And so I hope you learned something today. I hope you feel more comfortable and confident about your ability to get a driver's license. And I hope you enjoyed the lecture. But even if you didn't, just like my favorite professor, Dr. Phillips, used to say, it's better than a sharp stick in the eye. We'll see you.